What's up, Broncos country? Welcome back to the Broncos Podcast Network and YouTube for the latest episode of Broncos Now. As always, I'm your host, Sydney Jones. And coming up on today's episode, Broncos lead writer Aric DiLalla joins the show. We'll take a look at some of the teams and moves at the start of free agency and what Broncos are returning for another season. All that and more coming up. Joining me here on today's episode of Broncos Now is Broncos lead writer Aric DiLalla. Aric, thanks for joining me on today's episode. Busy week here at the team headquarters.
You got it, Sid. Yeah, it's exciting that the new league year is here. Free agency has officially begun, and going to take that next step toward next season.
Yeah, free agency has officially begun, but the fun really started on Monday through legal tampering period. A lot of moves around the league this week, Aric.
Yeah, that's right. You see some of the big names off the board quickly.
Yep.
Obviously, we know the Broncos were not going to have the same approach they did last season when they went out and got Mike McGlinchey, Ben Powers, Samaje Perine, Zach Allen. I mean, last year that was the kind of the big free agency wave that teams make from time to time. George Paton, Sean Payton, they said not to expect that this year. So no surprise there that the Broncos were a little bit quiet, but Sid, they were able to retain some of their key guys that were on the roster last year.
Yep, absolutely, Aric. We'll start with the first guy that they re-signed on Monday. They brought back safety PJ Locke. He signed a 2-year deal here. Super excited for him. So well-deserved.
Yeah, PJ, special teams contributor, his first 3 seasons in Denver, ends up starting 8 games last year, makes some big plays, has the interception against the Packers to win that game, has a couple of key forced fumbles, really showed himself as a physical player, a rangy player on the back end. We know that Justin Simmons has moved on. The Broncos parted ways and released him last week. And so it's an opportunity for PJ Locke. We'll have to see kind of how that safety room shakes out here in the coming days, coming weeks as we approach the season. But a big opportunity for PJ Locke. And, he's just one of these guys that has talked about he wanted to be here, wanted this opportunity, wanted to continue with this team and this environment, this coaching staff. So excited for PJ Locke. Yeah,
I was going to say, Aric, I know you talked to him on Monday, and he seems thrilled to be back.
Yeah, he was fired up.
Yeah.
He had his family with him. You can tell when these guys get that first or that second contract, rather, what it means to them. And so he's excited to be back in Denver.
Yeah, well-deserved, like I said. Well, also, Aric, the team brought back kicker Will Lutz. He'll be here for an additional 2 seasons as well. We really saw that special teams unit take a big step forward last year, so they'll just continue to grow this next couple seasons.
Yeah, and a priority, obviously, ahead of the season to go out and trade for Will Lutz. Got him here right before the season started and really found his groove. Last year, he was the AFC Special Teams Player of the Month in November, did not miss a field goal in 3 games that month, and really found a lot of success. I believe he only missed 2 field goals inside of 50 yards all season, made the second most field goals in a season in franchise history, made some big kicks for this team. And so he's a guy that, again, you don't want to have to go through that kicker competition every year. He showed with his ability, his consistency, that he's among those top guys in the league. We know Sean Payton valued him, and so to have him back is also crucial. And like you mentioned, it maintains that consistency in that kicking group.
Definitely, yep. And then today, on Wednesday, the team also re-signed tight end Adam Troutman and then fullback Michael Burton as well, so they'll be returning here to Denver. 2 key contributors there on offense. Why do you think it was so important for the team to bring them back?
Yeah, well, I think in general, all these guys, the Broncos are trying to build kind of this, still build this culture, build this program. It's a team-first mindset. We've heard Sean Payton talk so many times about the procurement of players and having guys that this really matters to.
Yeah.
And so I think as you continue to build this team in that image, it's important to have guys that want to be here. And certainly a guy like Mike Burton said he wants to be here. He wants to see this thing through. He's as selfless as they come. I mean, I think back to that play against the Chargers last year where he picks up a blitz in the pocket. LJ Humphrey catches the ball, runs down for a touchdown, but he doesn't get to the end zone if Michael Burton isn't 40 yards down the field.
Right. That was impressive.
Sean Payton, after that play, said, I think it was the next day, he compared it to the Benjamin Watson effort against Champ Bailey here way back in the divisional round against the Patriots almost 20 years ago now. And so that speaks to how special that play was. Obviously, a fullback, it's kind of that position where you don't get a lot of credit, a lot of accolades, but you just play hard, and he's a special teams contributor as well. I think we know how valued he is in the building. Same with Adam Troutman. I mean, a guy that he was the leading receiver as a tight end. I think the Broncos would probably say they need more production at that spot, but he's a guy that played 70% of the snaps. He could catch the ball. He could block in line. Right. He's a guy that, again, just kind of did it all for the Broncos. And that selfless mindset, I think, is what this team's looking for. So bringing back those two guys, important pieces for this team moving forward.
Definitely. And Aric, you talked about Sean's culture and continuing to build that, and think about the guys they already re-signed, Will Lutz, Adam Troutman, Michael Burton, guys that have already been under Sean in different regimes too. So just continuing to build that and bring back guys who know that culture well. Yeah,
definitely. That's a good point. They've played for Sean before. Obviously, PJ played for him last year, decided, hey, I want to be back under a Sean Payton coach team and just continue to build this and take small steps, but continue to work toward the ultimate goal.
Definitely. Well, Aric, now that the league year has officially begun, the Jeudy trade has become official. The Broncos traded him to the Browns for a 2024 fifth and a sixth-round pick this year. So what type of flexibility do you think that gives the Broncos in this year's draft then?
Yeah, good question. I think, one, you've got 3 fifth-round picks now, so it is a chance if you're looking to add young talent to stock up kind of in those middle rounds, day 3 of the draft, and find some younger talent. We talk a lot about first-round picks and second-round picks, but we know Sean Payton and George Payton in the past have found some really key contributors in those late rounds. So I wouldn't kind of discount sort of the value of just having those picks if you do pick kind of in that position and find some of these guys. I mean, Sean Payton in the past has found guys like Zach Strief, Marcus Colston in the 7th round. Jari Evans, a future Hall of Famer, was a middle-round pick. We certainly have seen the success that George Payton has had. Jonathan Cooper, for example, a 7th-round pick. So some of these guys in the mid to late rounds can still be key contributors. And certainly I think the Broncos, as they build this thing, are going to need guys like that. The other thing it gives you is the chance, if you want to package some of those picks, maybe you can move up a little bit. The Broncos do not currently have a second-round pick as we sit here and talk, Sid. So, maybe it gives you some flexibility to get up a little bit. The Broncos always talk about having the flexibility to trade up, trade back, stay where they are. And so who knows exactly how that plays out, but we know George Payton loves picks. We know Sean Payton has a history of trading up, and so maybe this gives you some flexibility there. But I think more than just the picks, it also gives you a chance to see more of Marvin Mims, most likely. And
it's true. Excited about that.
Yeah, Sean Payton said at the Combine, really the only thing that held Marvin back offensively last year was the Broncos in terms of the opportunities he was able to get. He played the same position as Jerry Jeudy, and so we saw that maybe what Marvin could do when he had his opportunities, and now I would expect that he gets more opportunities, and just an exciting young player with a lot to prove. He, I think, talked at the end of the season about, hey, I did some good things, but I want a lot more. And he knew he had to be patient last year, just with as many guys as the Broncos had in the room. Feels like coming up, Marvin Mims is going to have a big chance to shine.
Definitely. Yeah, a lot of potential for him in the passing game. Aric, on the other side of things, 2 former Broncos have found new homes. Josey Jewell, he's headed to the Panthers in Carolina. And then there are reports out there that Lloyd Cushenberry is headed to Nashville with the Titans. Sad to see them go, but excited for them in their next step.
Yeah, 2 guys that have been here a long time. Josey Jewell, the outlaw, made a lot of big plays. Sir Lloyd Cushenberry III, one of our favorites.
One of our faves.
A 3rd-round pick who started a ton of games here for the Broncos. Yeah, sad to see them go. I think that's part of it when you have good players that sometimes they're going to head to free agency and they're going to move on. I do think the good news is, we'll see kind of what the Broncos choose to do at inside linebacker. I think George Payton said at the Combine that it looked like Drew Sanders was going to move to outside linebacker. Maybe we'll have to see how that all plays out, but certainly somebody will need to slot in next to Alex Singleton there.
Definitely.
And then we know the Broncos have a lot of confidence in guys like Luke Wattenberg, Alex Forsythe there, potentially at center. So you never rule out any additional guys coming in, right? But especially at center, I think the Broncos have talked about the excitement and the potential that those guys have. And we heard George Payton talk at his end-of-season presser and refer to a bunch of these guys in last year's rookie class as potential future starters. And so, that's part of this league is you've got to draft well, give guys a chance to step up.
For sure.
And now some guys are going to get that opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. Well, there's still a lot of reports out there, but nothing official from the team yet. So for Broncos fans out there, please stay up to date on our social media channels, on denverbroncos.com. We'll have a lot of coverage of who the Broncos sign in the next couple days. But Aric, I know it's just the start of free agency, but what do you think Broncos fans, Broncos country can really just expect over the next few days here?
Yeah, I think again, we heard George Paton say before free agency ever started that this is not going to be the approach of last year. We're not going to go out and sign a ton of guys to huge contracts right away. That doesn't mean there's not value still to be had. And so I would expect the Broncos to add guys. We'll see. Do you wait a week? Do you wait a couple weeks? Do things really slow down? And then you, find some guys that are looking for an opportunity. We'll have to see. But certainly just the nature of the NFL, more moves are on the way. And there's nothing wrong with finding value, right? And finding contributors kind of in that second and third wave. So, might have to be a little bit more patient than last year when kind of the big hitters were off the board quickly. But I think still some exciting things to come.
Definitely. Yep. A lot to come in the next couple of days. Well, Aric, I appreciate you joining the show today.
You got it, Sid.
That's going to do it for today's episode of Broncos Now, Broncos Country. Thanks so much for tuning in. Meet you right back here on the Broncos Podcast Network and YouTube next week for another episode. I will see you all then.